Hello and welcome to assignment 7. This video is not a walkthrough, but it is intended to explain the code that you're provided with so that you can use it and modify it and learn more about writing functions. So rather than writing some very simplistic baby functions that are standing alone, you're going to insert functions into a block of existing code. And first I'm going to explain what you have here in JS Fiddle. So you're going to open this file, you've got the URL, you are going to fork it, you're going to write a new comment at the top of the JavaScript pane, then you will update, and most important, you will click Set as Base so that you can save your work. Then, when you've got your own copy, all right, so first, the lower right panel is what you would see on an HTML page. And that HTML has very limited CSS, which I'll show here in the upper right. Just the body has a font. The lists have had their bullets taken off. And the yellow box at the top it's got an ID of narration, and it has a little padding and a yellow background color. So the CSS is really, really simple. The HTML is stuff that you've seen before, except for these little checkable bullets, which are called radio buttons. And they're part of a form, and we haven't studied forms yet. Go is a button, and we haven't studied buttons yet. But in our HTML pane, we start with a paragraph that has an ID, and that is this yellow paragraph. We have a paragraph that says choose one. Then we have an unordered list, and that contains these 3 buttons, and they are radio buttons, and they're in a group with the name of mountain. You don't have to change anything in the HTML. After that list ends, we have a button. After that button, we have another list, also with the bullets taken off, and this tells us what is our condition or our state while we're playing the game. So it's going to tell us our position, our health, how much food we have, and how many feet we have left to climb on this mountain we're climbing. So those are the easy panes. Let's look at the JavaScript. And because the JavaScript is a bit complicated, and you'll see that there's actually 79 lines of JavaScript here, but it's already been written for you. You're going to change the contents of 3 functions that are already here. You may change or add some other things, but your main job here is simply to modify 3 functions, and in fact they are these 3 functions so that they work. And we'll go over the code in just a moment, but before we do that, let's see how things work in the result pane over here on the lower right. So if I have climb selected and I press go, watch what happens below the go button. Okay, so I've clicked, and now my position is 100 feet higher. My health is 10 points less. My food stayed the same, and my remaining feet to climb is less by 100, which happens to be the amount of my position. And the message in the yellow box, the paragraph with the ID narration, it changed to say, you are climbing the mountain. So one climb added 100 feet, and it changed this message. If I climb again, it will say, I'm now 200 feet from the ground. I have 5,800 feet remaining. The message doesn't change. So I could climb a lot. I could keep climbing. And one additional thing is going to happen. I'm going to keep climbing till I lose all my health points. Notice that my health points are going down by 10 each time. Now I'm down to 10 health points. The yellow message will change when I hit climb. Oops, not yet. Now it will. Oh snap, you're too exhausted to continue. And so my health is now 0. And because of the code, which I will go through in a second, in the JavaScript, right? Now I cannot climb, I cannot eat, I cannot rest. Nothing happens. Basically, the game is over. So what is the code that caused that to happen? Over here in the JavaScript pane, and I will go through all the code, but first, let's do this one thing. This function here, called climber result, it's the main function. It actually calls other functions, and it causes a lot of things to happen. But the thing that we just saw, where the game basically stops if your health ever goes to 0, that was caused by this part of the JavaScript. And the main thing that it was caused by is that if the health is ever less than or equal to 0, we will get message M4, and everything that was clicked, anything that was clicked, will revert to false, meaning the radio buttons will not have anything in them. They aren't filled. Every time we click, the same thing happens. Whatever we clicked is now unchecked, unchecked, unchecked every time. The same message is written, so you don't see it rewrite, it just stays there. And we actually can't go anywhere from here because the very first thing in this function says, if the health is 0, pretty much nothing else in this function will run. So that's an important thing to understand. This function runs every time we click go, and yet nothing will happen if we have allowed our health to get to 0. So let's run it again, start from nothing. So now our position is 0, remaining feet, the entire 6,000 feet. And I want to show you what does not work on this script so far. So we've seen that if I climb, I keep going up, my position increases, my remaining decreases. Okay, so that works fine. What about rest? I click rest, I click go, nothing changes in the 4 things below the go button. And this is going to be something that you will have to change. Something needs to happen when we're clicking rest, and right now nothing is happening. And why not? Let's look at the JavaScript. Because in this function called rest action, basically nothing happens except the button gets unchecked when I click go. So every time I click go, the button gets unchecked, but nothing else happens. And why? Because the function doesn't allow anything to happen. Eat is exactly the same way. If I click eat and go, nothing happens, nothing happens, nothing happens. And why is that? Because eat, nothing happening except that the button will get unchecked. So these two functions are already waiting for you on lines 62 through 68 in the code you've been given. And your job is to make things happen that are logical, that are sensible. These are explained in your assignment. So if you scroll down through your assignment, you will find what you must change. You must change the eat action function. You must change the rest action function. And last but not least, the special part, you have to write a goat attack. And that is because we want the goats to attack the climber. And goat attack is also in here as an unwritten function. There's nothing written there at all. There's no button because, of course, nobody would ask for a goat attack. So the next step is to see how the climb function, the climb action function, actually works, because you're going to be able to figure out how to write the eat function and the rest function by looking at the climb function that's already been written and figuring out how does it do what it does. So let's have a look at climb action right now. So this is a function that's fully written out for us. And let's see how it works. And I'm going to actually narrow up the pane a little bit so we can see both things at once. So we've already seen that if I click climb and I press go, the position number increases and the health number decreases and the food does nothing and the remaining number decreases. So why does that happen? Okay, click climb, press go, position is going to increase. Look over here, how does position increase? Position increases by 100. So every time that climb is chosen and go is clicked, position will go up by 100. It's not mysterious. It's written into the function, right? And where did position come from? We don't have that keyword var in front of the word position. That is because we already declared all of our variables at the very top, lines 1 through 7. So all the variables that you see used in this JavaScript, they were declared as global variables at the top of our JavaScript file. And position is right here, and when we started, position was 0, right? So I'm going to hit run again, so we go back. So when we start, position is 0, and that is because the variable was initialized as 0. So back to our function. Here we are climbing, all right? So I'm going to climb again. So what's the next thing that happens? Climb, 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 right? Health keeps decreasing. Why does health decrease? Look at our function. Again, it's not magic. Health, something happens to the variable, right? The contents of the variable, which we know as its value. It's going to be changed. This is the name of the variable. This is what happens to it as a result of the climb action function. So minus equal means take away from the thing you already had, which was health, which had a value before, right? But each time this function is executed, this number will be subtracted from whatever value is inside health right now. So when health is 80 and I click climb and I click go, health goes down by how much? By 10. It goes down because of this. It goes down by 10 because of this. Health is a variable, and like the other variables, it is declared, initialized up here at the top with all the variables. Right here it is. So when we start, if we hit run again, health always begins at 100 because of this. And what else happens when we click climb? Because whenever we've chosen climb, the climb action will execute. Climb. All right, food stays the same. Why does food stay the same? Do you see food here? Do you see food anywhere in the function? Right now, what is highlighted is inside the climb function. Food, anywhere there? No. So food, no change, nothing happening. When I click climb, what else changes? Remaining feet goes down, okay? So you started with 6,000. Every time we climb, remaining feet decreases by how much? By, well, my goodness, there's nothing in here that determines that. Why is that happening? Is it magic? Well, remember that we do have position increasing by 100. So every time we climb, position increases by exactly 100 because of this. And position can be used combined with the height of the mountain to figure out how much do we have left. If I am already 800 feet above where I started and I had 6,000 feet to go, that's simple subtraction, right? So I had 6,000 feet at the beginning. I am now 800 feet on my way. So the difference between 6,000 and 800 is exactly what you have. But where did that come from? That does not happen when we climb. That happens in our main function right here. And I'm going to widen everything up and look at that. So in our main function, before it concludes, which it does on line 51, that's where the main function stops, ends, closes, line 51. Okay, so before that happens, the value of distance is recalculated. It is changed. The value of distance every time the main function runs, the value of distance becomes height minus position. Our initial height was set up here in our variables. Height. And I have asked you not to change this because I made it an especially large number so that the game wouldn't end easily. Okay, so we start with 6,000 and our position starts at 0. So every time we climb, we get a little farther up on our 6,000. And our 6,000 is a fixed number. The height of the mountain isn't going to change. But when is our position recalculated, and when is the remaining number of feet recalculated? In our main function, which starts here on line 29, and it goes down and down and down and down to here. And I will explain this whole function in the next video. For right now, I only want you to understand this part, line 47, in the main function. This line right here. I want you to understand how is the distance, which means the remaining distance to climb, how does that get calculated? It gets calculated each time the main function runs because the variable distance will hold a new value. The value will be the height of the mountain, which never changes, minus the new position, which is new now that we have climbed, and so our position has increased by 100 feet. So the next video is going to explain the entire program, the entire script from top to bottom. Hang in there. It's a puzzle, and I know you can figure this out. You can understand this because the math is simple, but the logic is like a brain teaser.